So I thought it would be interesting to look at the future of character meet and greets at Disneyland. We've seen them practice social distancing character meet and greets in all the other parks that are open. Disneyland will ultimately be the last Disney park to reopen. So I thought we could look at what they're doing over at the Magic Kingdom. And this is inspired by what they did in Shanghai and what they did in Japan. And I thought we could maybe look at seeing how they're going to do character meet and greets when Disneyland reopens. So first, let's check out what's happening over at Walt Disney World, courtesy of WWDNT, a great site that I love going to. Posted these photos, and this got me thinking, how will this work in our park, which is much smaller with much tighter corridors? So as you can see, they have characters up on balconies where everyone walking by can stop, pull out a camera, and get a pic. It keeps the characters safe from not having to be around a large volume of guests, and it keeps the guests safe from not having to be piled on top of each other. Also over in, I believe this is in Japan, they are putting the characters sometimes socially distanced on attractions. So you could walk up to King Arthur's carousel and you could just see Cinderella taking a lap. Now that's kind of hard for us to predict because technically you could put a character on any attraction. So I wanted to focus in on how are we going to do this in our park with tighter walkways, tighter paths. How will we create a space relationship where the cast members feel safe, but also the fans feel safe? So you can see here in Frontierland, they have characters up high for doing meet and greets. I do think it's possible that any attraction could just come through and you would see characters riding on one of the carts. That would be amazing. What I want to look at is how do we find locations to pull this off where we can do the balcony gimmick where people can just walk by and be surprised with seeing the citizens who live in Disneyland actually living inside of Disneyland. Here we see where they do the princesses on their train station at Walt Disney World, and what an amazing vibe to just be able to walk up, everybody gets a great photo, and everybody feels safe. I feel like that would be a really, really emotional way to come or leave out of the park. And that's the Disney way. They're going to try to figure out the safest ways to create a level of normalcy so that we can all just go out with our family and friends and get away. And if you've been to the Downtown Disney reopening, you see that you can still feel that sense of community and Disney joy even in the shopping district. It really does add a level of seeing characters on the balconies, in the different buildings of Disney World and soon Disneyland. It does make it feel more lived in. Like this just isn't a place where these people pop up, but that it's actually the lands and the little towns that they live in. Over the years at Disneyland, they have done special things with using these balconies for having characters up there. And if you ever did the all-night 24-hour party at Disneyland, on your way out the next morning, you'd show up Friday, you do the 24 hours there. On that Saturday morning when you were leaving, they would have all the cast members lined up at the Main Street train station in their pajamas, waving goodnight to you. So they know how to create these moments. This is just a moment to do this over and over again to make us all feel safe. So let's look at some spots that I have handpicked that I believe will be the spots where characters can do safe, social distant Disneyland meet and greets when the park eventually reopens. So my first location is obviously a no-brainer, right? We all have seen them use this spot before to put cast members up there. So I would anticipate that the stairs to the Main Street train station will probably be roped off, and what we will see is different characters waving to us from the platforms. This is a no-brainer, but where else in the land of Main Street USA could they have cast members and characters pop up to safely meet and greet us? Now, there aren't a lot of balconies in Main Street USA. A lot of the stores have the forced perspective to really pull off the gimmick of making the castle look far away when you show up there, which is the promise of adventure. And then when you're leaving at the end of the night, the forced perspective works the opposite way, which makes Main Street feel smaller and reminds you of this sweet little town of Disneyland that you just spent a magical day in with all the people you love. However, This little corner over here, though, does have a fair share of balconies. As we could see, how amazing would it be to have a couple of characters maybe having a cup of tea over here? And as we go over here to the exit where the old egg house was at, this has a balcony as well. Both of these could provide an amazing spot. And really the idea of seeing cast members over at the train station and then immediately seeing some over here, it would make Disneyland feel very lived in, very real. Now, one of my friends suggested that this porch, the old Wizard of Bras, could be a great place to have a character sit. It could be, but the only reason why I didn't put this on my list is I think that this would create congestion and kind of be hard for them to see. And most importantly, they would have to block off the sidewalk to keep the audience away. So I think when you're looking at these spaces, you want to create clean sight lines where a maximum of a lot of people can see the character, but also a nice, safe distance so everyone feels safe. And yes, the scale could look a little bit weird when you have this big-headed character in this forced perspective building. Now at Disneyland, we are blessed with the original Disney castle, Sleeping Beauty's castle, a work of art, but tiny compared to all of its predecessors. However, I do know for a fact that this area right here, this ridge, is a small little balcony because I've seen cast members up there before when they're doing the fireworks shows. So it would be possible to see characters, probably human characters, on this balcony. So not only would we have the ability to have human characters on the balcony on the front of Sleeping Beauty, but the backside as well. It's rare that you ever see anybody up here, but I do know that it's possible because every now and again you will catch a cast member up there working on the pyro. I don't know the exact footprint, but I do believe having a couple of the princesses up there waving at you and greeting you could be very possible at Disneyland, as well as how we've seen it implemented at the other parks. But really, other than Sleeping Beauty's castle, we're between a rock and a hard spot here in Fantasyland because all of our buildings are really tight together. They're pretty small, not allowing too many other spaces for these meet and greets to happen. So my prediction for Fantasyland would probably be on Sleeping Beauty, or of course, there's always the potential that they would put a character on one of the rides. But don't forget, our King Arthur's Carousel is currently closed. Maybe whenever the park reopens, that refurbishment will be done. And I've also seen Mickey riding around on Dumbo over in one of the Asian parks. So it is possible. But even when you come over to this spot of the park where there are some balconies, the balconies just lack the overall scale and the room in front of them for guests to be able to properly get a good view. I don't think that they're going to put a cast member or a character in a position to where only 2 or 3 people can see them. I think they're really trying to figure out a way to create the best opportunity. So therefore, I'm not really sure that this little bridge or this little balcony will be in play. When we look at Small World and think about how could we get characters over here, and this is sometimes used as an actual character meet and greet, where you can go up and meet. I've seen Ariel over here before doing a meet and greet, but I feel like this area right here, this stage, it's not a high stage and it has a low grade to get up there for safety concerns, but with this properly roped off, they could put a couple of cast members here. And the reason why I think this is a safe spot is look at the wide berth of land that we have all around this little stage. So if they wanted to put some cast members in a spot where they could line several of them up and you could kind of walk by and take your photos and do something that really plays to our younger citizens of Disneyland, this seems to be like a very, very predictable spot for something like that to happen. And what about the strollers, you say, Brickey? What about the strollers? Well, if Disney knew they were going to use this as a small stage for a character meet and greet, I assure you the strollers wouldn't be there because the strollers magically disappear when it's the holidays. And hey, while we're at doing things that make Disney fans happy, why not put climbers back on Matterhorn? Whenever you see climbers scaling the side of Matterhorn and maybe even Mickey Mouse going up the side of Matterhorn, it adds such life to the park. I've even been there before when they've had a small band playing on the side of Matterhorn Mountain. So yes, that could be an amazing spot to add a little bit of character, a little bit of life back to Disneyland. And There is no more of a socially distant location than being on the side of Matterhorn Mountain. As much as I would love to see characters on this balcony, once again, just like Fantasyland, I don't think that's going to happen. This corridor is very, very tight. The buildings have a bizarre perspective to make them feel animated and cartoony. I just don't think that this would give them the proper amount of footprint that they're looking for to bring cast members into an experience for enough people, because after all, if this little corridor got flooded with fans looking for the perfect pick, that would ruin the idea of making this a social distancing environment for both the cast members and the fans. I think Toontown is often overlooked because it doesn't have a lot of an adult stuff there, but the look and the flavor of it, I just absolutely adore it. So I would say that if Disney wants to create a character meet and greet experience in Toontown, obviously the houses are a no-go. The character houses would create too many people indoors. So I doubt that would be a thing unless they're really committed to doing that at a much, much lower capacity. But this little staging area right here, roping it off, maybe pulling back some of the tables, they could do a little party or a little celebration, and seeing the characters dance with the backdrop behind them would create the proper perspective. And I really think that this is one of those things, and I predict that there will be things that happen through social distancing that actually improve the park and improve our experiences there. So using this little area as a small stage, I think it could be amazing. If they did want to use one of the characters' homes as a meet and greet, if they shut down Donald's boat, which they probably will because a playground just doesn't work with today's health concerns, imagine how great it would be to see Donald just waving away on the edge of his boat. And by the way, we need more Daisy in the park. Daisy's one of the OGs and always gets ripped out of Precious FaceTime. So how great would it be to see Daisy and Donald, or who knows, a Huey, Dewey, and Louie? Like, I want to see some people on that boat. It would be cool to see Mickey in his front yard, but once again, I don't think that it has the proper sight lines, and I think something like that could absolutely flood this area. If Minnie was on her porch, if Mickey was doing some gardening, I think it would flood the land with people and create an unsafe environment. So you say, what about the Galaxy's Edge? And I say, it's about time. So the Galaxy's Edge was one of those things that was built with this maybe accidentally in mind, that we would need to get to a moment with a much more crowded Disneyland. How do we put characters in the park, create these magical moments without congesting everything? So by putting a character up high, creating clean sight lines gives hundreds of people a chance to take that perfect photo and also keep the park relatively moving. So this land was designed with the idea of doing high sightline shows. So as we stand right here in the spaceport, we can see a stage built right in front of our eyes with a perfect railing to keep the cast members safe. So a couple of characters come out here, maybe a couple cross this bridge, and they're having some sort of interplay back and forth, a door on the left, a door on the right. So the bridge is seemingly possible to go across, unless those are just prop doors. And how could anything just be a prop door or window at Disneyland? They would never do that to us. Maybe if they temporarily roped this area off, we could see characters here. And then finally, there's another small stage right in here above the Millennium Falcon, creating a 360 experience where you could have a small show where a couple of people say something to somebody else. Maybe there's a blaster sound effect that goes by. Like, this could make an amazing moment. And by the way, everybody could stay all around the cul-de-sac, all around the spaceport, take photos, enjoy the show, and then go about their business. This is a must-have for the Galaxy's Edge during social distancing. And when it pops up, I hope that it never goes away. Even if they only use one of these stages. Maybe I'm getting too greedy by wanting to see the bridge interact with the stage, interact with the docking bay 7, patio, and maybe this one's not real. Maybe that's just me looking into it too much, but at least, just use the one you built. The only time I've ever seen this used is when they had D23 people up there doing a live stream for the opening of the Galaxy's Edge. They were sitting up there in chairs with this, using the spaceport as their backdrop. Like, come on. It is worth more than just that usage. Now, we all know that there's the space in front of Kylo Ren's ship. That's a given. We've seen shows there. That's easy to do socially distancing. You get good sight lines. People probably won't crowd it if they have little stickers all on the floor. But let's look at some other Galaxy's Edge areas that were designed with this same intent. Perfect example. We've all seen stormtroopers walking on this multi-leveled display for a show, the stage through here. And there's even this cool little crow's nest right here where you could have somebody step out. And on the press preview night, they did a show up here, full with laser blasters, explosions, people falling off. Like, this was designed to be a show. This is a stage. It looks great when it's not being used as a stage, but it would look even better during social distancing if we just walked through here and all of a sudden a small battle broke out between the First Order and some resistance folks that are just trying to get in and get out with some important data. So this is one that has to be used, but to create that idea of multiple citizens from multiple angles talking with each other, don't forget that there's this bridge, kind of hidden by the trees in this shot. There's a bridge right here where they could have more stormtroopers. And then above the scrapyard, this level right here, this is a balcony. And these two windows right here, they just have a Obi-Wan Kenobi colored curtain that keeps them from allowing us to see what's inside. So to create a very big environment of storytelling, imagine a couple of Jedi are over here. They have to yell at a couple of stormtroopers over here. Maybe the stormtroopers has their bud. Maybe if you're standing back here, you see a couple of stormtroopers run across this bridge to offer reinforcement. Like, it's not impossible to think of. And fun fact, this domed building right here, this is where the cast members that are properly dressed, the character cast members, this is the spot where they come and go from. So imagine if you caught a little show here, and then later on, you caught a little show over in here. How would that improve your Galaxy's Edge and your Star Wars day? And especially if it was a social distancing day where all of your favorite attractions weren't open, being able to go from story to story to story could create such a magical day. It's hard to figure out why they don't use them. And I guess it's budget cuts, but what could that cost be compared to what it costs to actually build this land? Why would you go this close and then not go the whole way, right? Like, it's kind of crazy, very crazy. Now, where the X-Wing and the A-Wing fighter are both parked, I have seen them use the X-Wing location as a character meet and greet. Sometimes you will see Chewie up there and he will be messing around with those wires, getting it all ready to go. I've seen, I think, Rey over at the A-Wing. I'm not completely sure about that, but I do know that I've seen characters over here. But why not just put a couple of pilots, a couple of guys and gals in their orange suits, in the orange flight suits, and just have them up there hanging out and just working on their equipment? It's those little things that would mean so much to people when this opens up. And Galaxy's Edge was designed with all of this in mind. So I think this is the perfect time to implement the strategies that the land was built on. It's not the most expensive way to bring a lot of cheer. And I do think with social distancing, we're going to be looking at people that are, looking for those Disney magic moments, because everything else is going to feel so weird. But, I just wish that all the vibes were there. Now, New Orleans Square is probably the home to the most balconies anywhere in Disneyland. But as we've talked about earlier today, it's compromised by its tight corridors. Everything that makes New Orleans Square amazing and feel like the real French Quarter kind of would punish it in regards to social distancing character meet and greets. But the 21 Royal balcony for the Haunted Mansion 50th anniversary party, they had a woman singing out here who was singing a very interesting take on the Haunted Mansion songs in a more dramatic and sort of real way. She stood up there and there was plenty of room for folks to check her out doing her thing. These are our balconies in New Orleans Square where there's the highest potential of a character meet and greet. Seeing them up there, I know that this is accessible from 21 Royal. I've seen people up there before. There could be a chance that they would potentially use the Dream Suite right here. But the reason why I'm picking these balconies over the Dream Suite is because the trees. I think that the trees block clear sight lines for people to actually be able to see the character. Because after all, this is really like a photo moment because there's no more going directly up to the characters. So unless they were to put them over here on the stairs, I don't think that they would put them up in front of the Dream Suite. But that being said, imagine if there was a suitor for a character over here and they were having a dialogue back and forth. Like, I would love to encourage Disneyland to use these spaces as stages to create shows, not just waving at me, but literally, I think a lot of fans like myself want to see the people that live in these locations interacting, given a level of making it all feel real. So even if their conversation was benign, it would just be great to see that extra level of storytelling, because why we all love Disneyland is it feels like a real city and not like an amusement park. Having the characters interact and talk with each other would do just that. I feel like this is probably the best spot in this land for that moment to happen. So I want to say, the grossest place in all of Disneyland is when you get off of Pirates, there's that little swinging fence and it's supposed to look like wood, but it's a swinging fence and they don't want it to hurt anybody. So it's like faux wood sponge. So it's like a big spongy swingy thing that thousands of people touch every day. I am never touching that again. I will full on I'll do this move. I'll mark arena right through there. I am not touching that with my hand. No way. No way. Now, the Rivers of America offers a great opportunity to truly do some social distancing character meet and greet moments. We could have characters over on the island, and we all have seen Fantasmic, where they have characters on the sailing ship Columbia and the Mark Twain at night. But doing a daytime appearance, this could be a really, really big fan favorite for people to stroll by, see the characters they love on the boats that we love in this part of the park where everybody can get a clear view. This is one of the few areas in Disneyland where you could literally make hundreds of people happy at the exact same time because everybody could get a photo in this area. This is the spot to get the biggest return on investment on just, a little bit of set dressing could make a lot of people very, very happy. Let's cruise through Adventureland and see what we can find in Adventureland. Oh, Bengal barbecue, come back to me. Now, this is a perfect social distancing spot. Put some characters up there on the bridge, on that observation tower. They can easily shut it down for 15, 20 minutes. I mean, who even knows if something like this will be open when the park reopens? And could you imagine that you just got off of Pirates or you just got off of Indiana Jones and you're buzzing with all that excitement and you're hustling on your way back to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for a 2:00 ride on Rise of the Resistance, and you stumble across some characters right here? Oh man. You want to talk about great Disneyland vibes? None greater than seeing someone right in here. I don't know if you've seen this spot since they did the reconstruction for Tropical Hideaway, but this little porch is a very awesome, rad, new, quiet spot in Disneyland. I love sitting up here, watching people come and go down the main thoroughfare of Adventureland. You could do something small here. I don't know how everybody would see it. And this is that tight turn in the road that Adventureland is so famous for. But I just like this spot. I like any reason to look at this spot. If we're thinking, where can we see a character pop-up happen in Frontierland? It's the Golden Horseshoe. It has the deck for it. It has the open air above it so that you could get perfect sunlight so everybody would be lit up for photos. And because it sits right here on this edge of the block, plenty of folks could be coming and going and get just an amazing photo of somebody or a couple of folks hanging out on the balcony of the Golden Horseshoe. If there's a spot in Frontierland they're going to take advantage of, it's going to be this one. Which leaves us for one last land to look at. Now, I know for sure that they have used this balcony up above everybody's. Why does thou forsake me, Google Earth? That's right, my favorite attraction, Star Wars Launch Bay. Please let me get back in. I love it so much. I've been a part of character meet and greets that they've done up on this balcony here, where if you're on a tour, you walk up here and they have characters come out. And so you just literally your group of 8 gets to hang out with, we met Pluto up there, and I've met Donald up there before, and I've got some great photos of me and Mickey up there on that balcony. But what's great is that when you're up here with the characters, even though you're with your private party, people that are walking below can see the characters are up there. And so to be nice, the characters will spin people with the tour because, well, they should. They're very expensive. But they also will walk over to the balcony and wave down to people that are walking by. And I have firsthand been able to stand next to a character, wave off the balcony at passerbys, and it's like being one of the characters. You get that feeling of like how amazed kids are when they just see one of their favorite characters pop up in a spot that they're not expecting them to be in. So having seen this happen firsthand and having been a part of it and being a tag along to get to do a little bit of waving, I know that this is the spot in Tomorrowland that would be the most beneficial for doing social distancing character meet and greets. So there you go, friends. We've looked at several locations, one in at least every single land, except for Critter Country. That one was a little bit hard to figure out because, well, it's a tight little area. But other than Critter Country, we looked at every land in Disneyland and tried to figure out where the safest spot to do a character meet and greet is, not only for the character, but for all of the guests. And sure, we'll probably see some characters going around the park riding on ride vehicles, and there's always the pop-up parade, the cavalcade, some might say, that is something that will be happening, but I feel like that's a different topic for a different video. Thanks a lot for going to all these different destinations with me, and if you have one that you thought of that I didn't, let me know in the comment section below. To everybody out there, fresh bake! What a troublemaker. All right, we have got a glitch in the Matrix here. What in the hell? What happened? What happened to Disneyland? Did somebody bomb Disneyland and we just lost it forever?